Hello. Are you dreadful of the subject called art and culture for prelims? Do you find the questions very factual, syllabus very vast, and sources very inadequate? Today, in next few minutes, we'll try to understand what the subject consists of, what are its components, what are the challenges, and how to overcome them. Let us first have the idea of the overall history subject. This is the graph of the prelims questions. In last 10 years, you will see the history portion has been around 15-20% every year. When the margin of passing the exam or clearing the exam, qualifying for mains is so small, 1, 2, 3 marks here and there, we cannot afford to leave any part of the subject. So putting history or art and culture to option is not an option for us. Come to the second graph. If we deconstruct the history further, we come to know a very important point. The blue over here indicates the questions that are asked from modern India, and the yellow indicates the questions that are asked from art and culture. If you look at the last 10 years, we come to know very easily that the relative proportion of both of them, although it varies every year, is almost equal. In some years, modern is more, some years, art and culture is more. The point is that when we start preparing this subject, we tend to focus more on modern India and very less on art and culture. And why is it so? Perhaps some people feel that modern India is more relevant, more important, more real, and more near to us or to UPSC. Some people rely more on what are the concrete sources available. And for modern India, the sources are more concrete than for art and culture. But we need to understand that all the proportion varies every year. Art and culture in itself is a different subject which requires equal respect, equal time, equal amount of preparation. We should not forget that. Thirdly, if you go for the thematic analysis of all the previous year questions of art and culture, what do we come to know? What does it consist of? UPSC syllabus by itself is not a proper guide. UPSC says in prelim syllabus, history of India, Indian national movement. That's all. It does not mention anything further. And it is a very generic sense that we can't understand what all consists inside it. If you go for the syllabus in modern India, or sorry, in mains, we come to know that Indian culture will cover the salient aspects from ancient to modern times of art forms, literature, and architecture. It is somewhat more specific over here, but still it is not as adequate as it should be. However, if you look at the previous year questions, the trend of questions that have been asked over last 20-30 years, what we come to know? The art and culture consists of specific trend or pattern of questions. The first topic that they ask most is religion. The second topic is about visual arts. The third topic is about performing arts. Fourth topic is about literary arts. And then there are some sundry topics like calendar sometimes or some other crafts, etc. Of these five, we need to know what to read, to what depth, and what are the subcomponents of the topics. Take for example religion. In the religion, if you go inside, you have Harappan religion, you have Vedic Upanishadic religion, afterwards you have 6 schools of philosophy, you have Buddhism, Jainism, you have Bhakti movement, you have Sufism, and even there have been 2 or 3 times questions on Sikhism in last 25 years. So Sikhism as well. Now even this much is not enough. We need to go even further. For example, let us take Bhakti only. In Bhakti, what do we study? We have its Upanishadic roots of Bhakti. More important, it has the context of South Indian religious movements of devotionalism, that is in Alvars and Nainars. After that, we have a great Acharya tradition of various South Indian or Vaishnava Acharyas, starting of Shankaracharya till Madhvacharya and after all Nimbarkacharya, etc., and contribution of all of them. Then we have North Indian Bhakti, in which again we have 2 parts. One is Sagun Bhakti and other is Nirgun Bhakti. Inside Sagun Bhakti, we have various saints in various regions of India, and so inside Nirgun Bhakti. So we have again various saints, their contribution, their regions, their chronology, their comparison, etc. So if you look at the questions that have been asked in this topic, you go from religion to bhakti to the evolution of bhakti. In fact, that you have North Indian bhakti, from that Saguna bhakti, then various saints and their contribution, and questions come like that. You can even take different topic. Let us take, for example, visual arts only. What does visual arts consist of? It consists of architecture. Then we have sculpture and its evolution, and we have painting. If you go even inside architecture, we have again 5 important parts. One is stupa and its own evolution. The other one is rock cut architecture and its own evolution of around thousands of years. You have temple, we have mosques, and we have tombs. There are other aspects of architecture as well, like stambha and pillars or minars, or we even have secular architecture, its contribution, for example, in Fatehpur Sikri or in Vijayanagar. However, you have to go even further inside. Take for example rock cut architecture. In rock cut architecture, we have viharas and its own evolution, we have chaityas and its evolution, and there are other Hindu rock cut buildings as well. And then again inside it, you have various dynasties starting from Maurya till early medieval, and which dynasty in which region contributed to what. The questions again come in comparison and chronology and contribution. So this is the depth that you are required to understand art and culture. So again, we can take another example. Take literature. What does literature consist of? In literature, we have various subcomponents again. We have religious literature and so-called secular literature. Religious literature one can understand very well when we study religious developments also. When it's come to secular, you have Sanskrit, Kavya tradition, you have drama and theatre, then you have scientific literature, you have historical books, history contribution, we have Sangam literature. We even have foreign travelers who visited India and wrote their accounts. If you go inside foreign travelers again, we have initially Greco-Roman foreign travelers who came to India and left their accounts like Megasthenes. Then you have Chinese or Korean foreign travelers like Yuan Sang, Yi Tsing, Yuhoncho, etc. Then you have Arabic Persian foreign travelers and their accounts. And finally, you have European travelers and their accounts. So, once you go to literature, you study all these aspects. Inside foreign travelers, you have all these aspects, and again inside them, you have various travelers, their contribution, their books, their observations, etc. And questions come from that. So, what I mean to say is, you need to have this overall meta perspective of the syllabus. Only then, in the specific context, the questions become very easy to deal with. Next. Still, the questions that are asked, they sound very difficult, and there is very specific reason for that. There is some kind of residue of the past in this art and culture preparation when you go to classes or material or specific books. For example, we tend to read a lot about, and we are also afraid of art and culture because of 3-4 things, like Northeast India, its religion, its dances, its festivals and customs, etc. Then there are again overall regional practices, regional dances, etc., regional music and its contribution, innumerable of them, because India is a diverse country. Then we have folk, because when you study folk drama, folk dance. It comes also along with classical drama, classical dance, etc., classical music, then folk music. And finally, we also have modern contributions, modern institutions, modern people, because all these things that we are afraid of are nothing but residue of old syllabus of pre 2013. If you look at the questions very closely, in last 10 years, you will find hardly one or two questions that are asked from Northeast, folk, regional and modern together. So why to club our mind with lot of things that are not required? What we need to focus primarily is on dominant things. If you read any book, for example, take Nitin Sanghania, he would give some pages to circus. Now, there has been not a single question on circus for last 10-15 years. He also would give a chapter on Indian cinema. UPSC in the older syllabus of mains used to ask a lot of questions on cinema, contribution of some actor, director, if someone died, questions based on personalities, some awards, some institutions, etc. Those questions are completely discontinued. They are continued for other exams like state level exams or banking, etc., but they don't come in civil services examination for UPSC. What is asked, however, is sub-themes of dominant topics that we mentioned. The questions appear difficult not because they come from peripheral topics. They come from sub-themes of the dominant topics. So inside Buddhism, they will go to sect and subsect and specifics. So it also makes question difficult. Simultaneously, it also gives us a direction what to read, what not to read, what to focus upon, what not to focus upon. Questions come in comparison and chronology, and those questions are easily answerable if you have the overall framework and context of evolution of art form. Now, that context is again another interesting matter. If you see the other graph, it is a further breakdown of the questions that are asked in art and culture. The gray area indicates the questions that are purely religion, art and culture. The blue one indicates questions from ancient India and the yellow one indicates questions from medieval India over last 10 years. What we come to know, primarily art and culture occupies the predominant section. I will explain in a short while. See, when I mention art and culture, what do I mean? In history book, whichever history book that we pick up, may it be NCERT or any standard book, any chapter, the book is divided into chronological units. Ancient, within ancient you have Vedic era, Janpad, Mahajanpad era, Mauryan era, post-Mauryan Kushana era, Gupta era, post-Gupta era, etc. Inside those chronological units, you have specific structure of chapters. Every chapter begins with sources. They are either literary or archaeological. Then you have political narrative of dynasties along with administrative part. Then you have economic aspects of the empire or kingdom or of that era. In that you have taxation plus primary, secondary, tertiary economic activities, trade, etc., and plus technological development of that time. Then you have social aspects, which generally deal in three angles. First is gender relations, class relations, and caste relations or caste system and developments within that. Then you have religion and philosophy of that era. And finally, you reach art and architecture or culture. So each chapter is divided into these subparts in any history book. When we say ancient and medieval, we generally restrict ourselves to only this part now for the sake of prelims. And for art and culture, we talk of these last two things. In a normal history book, including NCERT book, 70, 80, 90% pages are devoted to first half. And then only last 2, 3 pages, 4 pages in each chapter talk about this part. But if you look at the UPSC questions, the proportion is reversed. Almost 80% questions come from religion, philosophy, art and culture, and hardly 10-15% questions come from the remaining part. Now what to do? Understanding of this part is important because it gives a chronological framework and a context to the evolution in art and culture religion. So that is important for us. But if we keep reading from the same book again and again, we tend to give more time to this and less to this, and we suffer in the exam. So what we need to do is read books which give more focus over here. But which are those books? Generally speaking, there are four types of sources that we have from which we study art and culture. First is NCERTs. Now you will ask, which NCERT? There are many NCERTs that are available. The number is really astounding. If you see old and new NCERTs together, you have for ancient 4 NCERTs, old plus new. For medieval, you have 5 NCERTs, old plus new. And for art and culture, you have 3 NCERTs. There is no old NCERT for art and culture. Generally, we tend to read R.S. Sharma, Satish Chandra, and Indian Art Part 1 of class 11th. Now, what I would suggest is, if you read these two books, R.S. Sharma and Satish Chandra, each book consists of around 250 to 300 pages. So, together they make 500 pages, and then they provide you only context and ability to address 2 or 3 questions. And if you read this book, An Introduction to Indian Art Part 1 Class 11, Fine Arts NCERT Part 1, Part 2 has not come yet for last many years. Part 1 is also very good, we should read that, but that covers only visual arts ka part. That covers sculpture, certainly, that covers architecture, that covers Mauryan art, and somewhat painting, if not completely. And in the last there is one chapter on Indo-Islamic art. So the sources of NCERT are limited and they are not adequate. What we need to understand is NCERTs have their own limitations. Secondly, we go for UPSC civil service exam specific books like Nitin Singhania or the one by Spectrum, etc. Now these books are providing diminishing returns day by day. Firstly, there are two primary concerns with these books. Firstly, they don't have the requisite depth required by UPSC if you look at the questions that are asked, because these books are constructed based on what has been asked by UPSC in the past. And UPSC generally never repeats any question in art and culture. So these books give you an impression that you have covered the syllabus, but what we need is what all is also equally important but not covered by UPSC in the past. And these books fail to give that. And secondly, if you look at the number of pages devoted to specific sub-chapters, what we come to know that in UPSC, for example, religion of art and culture constitutes almost 40% of the part. Then you have visual arts, architecture, sculpture, painting together, they constitute around 20-25% of part. Then you have performing arts, literary arts, which are around again 10-15% each. And you have sundry questions for the remaining. So the thing is, if you look at the pages devoted to such sections in UPSC specific books, the proportion is reverse. They give a lot of pages to architecture. And in the end, some pages like 10, 20, 30 pages will be given to religion. So these books don't satisfy the criteria as well. Thirdly, you have standard books for art and culture. Now these are difficult books. There is no unified book which will solve all the UPSC specific issues for us. You can't go on reading specific, let us say, a book on Indian dance by some authors like Kapila Vatsyayan. You can't do that. There is no time, there is no requirement. But those books would be good books to read, but we don't have time for that. Finally, you have websites. Some websites are good like CCRT. These are really very good websites, but they are loading lot of facts without giving proper context. Again, we are stuck. So all the sources, NCERTs, UPSC specific books, standard books and websites, all of them have their own problem. We ultimately end up going and joining some class or some module, some course somewhere, which is also good. But that module again focuses on what has been asked in the past, and they will cover everything to give you a sense that you know everything. And when next year's paper comes, we again get stuck. Because there is another reason to it. And that reason is, we are all children of Macaulay. See, problem as we have seen is with syllabus, which is not defined completely. Problem is also with the sources, and problem is also with the students. In the Macaulayan system of education, the art was not considered subject worthy of importance, and it was kept out of school education for centuries. In the Victorian era, of which came after Macaulay, we also see the separation of Indian arts with the use of law and propaganda. Dance were banned, paintings was banned, etc. A lot of things it had done. So there was no social approval to it as well. From 1920s, 30s, we gradually see that art is getting importance and recognition, which is due to it in the era of national resurgence and claiming Indian identity and pride. Now that happened up to a certain extent, but that started dissipating after 1970s, 75, 80. Now UPSC for the first time is giving due recognition to it, but we are ill-equipped to understand it. If you look at our own childhood, may it be in city or village, we neither had time or inclination or exposure. Our upbringing is also completely deculturized. Let us watch a small video for a moment and we'll come back to it.
ये मसला क्या है? मैं तो स्कूल में कॉलेज में जाता हूँ, मैं पूछता हूँ, डू यू लव इंडिया? यस वी लव इंडिया। मैं पूछता हूँ, एक बात बताओ, तुमको हिंदुस्तानी ज़माने, अगर आज ये वक्त आ गया है कि अगर आप हिंदी सही बोल लेते हैं या उर्दू सही बोल लेते हैं, तो इसके मतलब है आपकी अपब्रिंगिंग में गड़बड़ है कोई, आप कोई रिस्पेक्टेबल फैमिली के नहीं हैं। ये हकीकत है। तुम्हें अपने मुल्कों की ज़बान नहीं पसंद, तुम्हें अपने मुल्क के कपड़े नहीं पसंद, तुम्हें अपने मुल्क की म्यूज़िक नहीं पसंद, तुम्हें अपने मुल्क के खाने नहीं पसंद, तुम्हें अपने मुल्क का पसंद क्या है जो इतना दावा कर रहे हो मोहब्बत का? आपने ज़बान से काट दिया, आदमी ज़मीन से कट गया।
बहुत अच्छा।
ये हो रहा है, इसकी किसी को फिक्र ही नहीं।
In Sanskrit, there is a saying, Sahitya Sangita Kala Vihinaha Sakshat Pashu Puchha Vishanahinaha. The person who doesn't enjoy, who is not a rasik of Sahitya Sangita Kala, is like an animal without horns, etc. Nonetheless, it makes our appreciation of culture very difficult, and that's why we find it factual and boring, but it is not so. So, what is the strategy that we should have? Firstly, we should focus on proper previous year questions analysis, and we should solve all the questions. The good thing about art and culture is that the questions don't have expiry date. So we can go back, buy a book from the market which has previous year questions of last 20, 30, 40 years and solve all the questions. It will give us proper understanding. The questions will never retire, and they will help you focus your preparation, and they will tell you to what depth you have to go in what aspects. Secondly, sources. Sources should be limited but right sources. For ancient medieval, I would not recommend you reading old NCERTs now because they are giving not much returns. But nonetheless, we need to be aware of the entire political, social, economic development of ancient and medieval both. The best source is the book by Tamil Nadu State Board. In 250 pages, it will give you the entire development of ancient medieval with good focus on facts, and which is a very revisable book as well. So read that 2-3 times and then focus on art and culture. Don't go back to ancient medieval again and again. That book gives you enough required data. Thirdly, notes. What kind of notes should you prepare? Notes should be prepared in a thematic manner, the way I just showed you. And finally, practice a lot of questions, and then be a rasik, enjoy the rasa, so that you will not find the preparation boring and score well as well. Thank you.
Hit the bell icon to never miss an update from Level Up IAS. Make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.